Hello people of the YouTube, TWK here, and welcome to my stream of conscious style video on Ratchet and Clank, Up Your Arsenal, also known as RNC3, and territories where the word Rs is 100% banned in video game titles. The story of the game has our titular heroes enjoying some nice R&R before a news broadcast announces that a race known as the Tyrannoids are invading Ratchet's home planet of Veldin. Our heroes then hop into their ship and set course for said planet. It's here where we're introduced to the Galactic Rangers, a cowardly group of robotic soldiers, and they somehow mistake Ratchet for their new sergeant. Well, they give Ratchet some free weapons, so no complaints will be coming from him. Veldin serves as our tutorial level, and to say that it's easy, especially in comparison to later levels, would be the mother of all understatements. RNC's gameplay is a hybrid of third-person shooter, platformer, and role-playing games which, while super common now, was extremely rare and novel back in the mid-aughts. Throughout the game, we'll be getting a wide variety of weapons, and I highly recommend you do so as ammo will become more and more scarce in later levels. Thankfully, Ratchet gets an ammo refill every time a weapon levels up alongside more power and sometimes a new feature like lock-on aiming. There is some platforming, but it is not nearly as much as the focus as running and gunning is, but at least they didn't completely forsake it. My one complaint about the gameplay is that some weapons become completely obsolete by the endgame, which I've never been a fan of. Later games thankfully rectify this, but it's still annoying to level up some weapons for a few hours only for them to be borderline useless against stronger enemies. Alright, back to the story. To brass tacks things, we got Dr. Nefarious, a robotic doctor hellbent on ruling the universe, and his big plan of doing so is to turn everyone into robots. Helping Ratchet and Clank on their journey is the Galactic Military, headed up by Sasha Firenix. I think that's how you pronounce it. If not, then oops, oh well, don't care, let's move on. She is the daughter of the President! Sounds like a conflict of interest could occur, but no time for that, as we have the greatest character in the series, Captain Copernicus Leslie Quark, portrayed by the legendary Jim Ward. I honestly hope Jim Ward is enjoying his retirement as much as he possibly can, especially considering his health issues. On a brighter note, there's also the rest of the Q Force who mostly exist for comic relief, which is perfectly fine as not everyone needs to be super important to the plot. There's also a robotic Britney Spears XP by the name of Courtney Gears, who also has her own music video.
Yeah, what's up people? It's Courtney Gears. Are you feeling me, robots? I'm feeling you. I see the future, and what do I see? Robots going crazy across the galaxy. Can't stand organics, they're soft and squishy. The time is now, where robots must be free. Do you want to be free? Then shout with me, yeah!
So yeah, we gotta take her out as well as her backup dancers. On that topic, boss fights. They're fine enough, and with the right arsenal, you can take out their health in no time. Back to the plot, at one point Clank gets abducted and replaced by a decoy who eventually turns into a boss fight, which is the correct amount of difficulty where you have to use your reflexes to dodge, but he is not a complete damage sponge. Also, at one point while infiltrating one of Nefarious' ships, Quark stays behind to get something important while the ship is in the process of self-destructing, and as far as we can tell, Guy does not make out alive. Rip in Pisces, except when we venture to the crash site, which is where the game's difficulty really ramped up for me BT dubs, we find out that he did escape and left behind a data disk. Before we can have that deciphered, we eventually find his hideout via a 2D beat 'em up, and yeah, this game has those. There are 5 in total and generally take between 2 to 5 minutes to finish, and depending on how many tokens you find whilst playing, you can get paid a pretty penny. Nevertheless, we find Quark and surprise, surprise, he's cowardly AF. This leads us to destroy the super weapon on our own, which was kind of easy as Clank handled the whole thing via a cutscene.
Agent Clank! What's going on here? What do you think you're doing?
After all those holofilms, there is one thing you should know by now. Do not mess with Agent Clank.
Or was it, as our tech dude Al discovers via the data disk, there's another super weapon that's bigger and badder, which leads us to the final level. This fucking place. This fucking place. I died several times here, and each time was more frustrating than the last. What didn't help was the fact that unlike previous levels, there were 0 checkpoints between the start of the level and the end. 0, zilch, nada, nothing, you lose, and fuck your good day because it sucks. Then we have the fight with Nefarious himself. As expected, dude was a bit of a damage sponge, but one thing I forgot about was the halfway point where you have to fight a bunch of goons while Nefarious is invincible and continues to blast you. Thankfully, the second half of the boss fight was much more normal and I was able to take him out with relative ease. Or did I? As in a last-ditch effort, Nefarious and his butler Lawrence, who as usual was not having any of Nefarious's nonsense, activates the super weapon. This leads to Quark making a redemptive comeback and our final boss fight of the game via an aircraft.
I don't believe it!
Believe it, Toasterhead!
I have no idea if there are any checkpoints here, but I was not willing to take that risk, and by the skin of my teeth, I defeated the super weapon and I breathed a gigantic sigh of relief as we head into the denouement.
Warning. Reactor detonation in 60 seconds.
Lawrence, engage the teleporter.
Would you care to specify a destination, sir?
Who cares? Just get us out of here.
Time's up.
What? That wasn't even close to 60 seconds!
Bye-bye.
I gotta say, I was getting some massive ending fatigue by the end of this game. I guess it didn't help that I recorded a solid 3 hours in a row, including 2 challenging levels and a boss fight that had no checkpoints. Thankfully, there's more to do in this game than just going from level to level and experiencing the story. Like Aquatos, which has you going through the sewer pipes, hunting for crystals, which you can trade in for a decent bounty. The bulk of the side content, though, will be spent at Annihilation Nation, which is the arena setting of the game. Be it platforming challenges, boss fights, or enemy gauntlets, this place has it all. There's even a 100 round mode called the Quarktastic Challenge, which can be difficult if you haven't leveled up your weapons properly by this point. And that was Ratchet and Clank 3, Up Your Arsenal. It's mostly a breeze to play through with quite the difficulty spike near the end of the game. The biggest saving grace aside from the overall fun gameplay is how lighthearted the tone is. Even when the tone is at its most dour, hope never feels out of reach, and that is one thing that has been coming back to games, especially when my mood is in the proverbial dumps.
Like, destroy all squishies, dude.
I hear a lot of people say this game lacks commentary, and there's an entire ethnic war going on, and on top of that, the face of neoliberalism, Bill Clinton, is the butt of a few jokes here, so I have to disagree with that claim.
We're live from Planet Marcadia with the Galactic President. Mr. President, how will the attack on Metropolis affect your chances for re-election this fall?
I'm glad you asked, Darla. Our demographic research indicates that robots will make up 100% of the galactic population by this time next week. Now, of course, that's great news for my re-election campaign because, as you know, I'm half robot myself.
And on a final note, playing through this does make me want to replay Rift Apart, but I'll save that revisit for another time. As for what's next, how about return to a certain place, a certain location, a certain island for the insane? How about a return to an asylum? Until then, I hope you all have a perfect rest of your day and hope that my minor sickness hasn't affected the audio of this video too much.
I thought we agreed to put that jungle business behind us. It was mating season. How could I have known she was your sister? How long have you two been standing there?
Too long.